Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Stand on Guard. Welcome to another week. It's Monday, November 18th. Welcome back. It started. Yes, I talked about this for the first time a couple of months ago, but it started. What's starting? Stay with us.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Yes, please welcome the station into your home, into your lives. Tell your friends and family about Stand on Guard, about this channel, Krayden's right. Please do and support us in any way you can. Give us a thumbs up, like the broadcast early in the episode. That helps us beat the YouTube suppression, which we continue to battle every day. It's, as I say, it's as bad as Trudeau's censorship at times. And don't think Trudeau's relenting on his plan to censor us. It's all happening. So much is happening right now. It's like we have no government in Ottawa. It's like we have no federal government. We have a vacancy in the prime minister. We could still have a snap election before Donald Trump becomes president. We were talking about that over the weekend. You might recall former public safety minister John Manley. I think he was also finance for a while. This is a liberal saying Canada needs a snap election because he implied the Trudeau government doesn't have the credibility or the legitimacy to deal with Donald Trump. But I've got something we need to talk about. You recall when I had JJ Carroll on the show a couple of months back, and he was talking about the illegal immigration crisis in the United States. And he said to me, said, if Donald Trump is elected in November, and at that point we were still thinking, well, we're hopeful, we're optimistic, but it's still a bit of a long shot because of all of the factors and all of the institutions and personalities against him. We thought it was a long shot. But if he's elected, J.J. Carroll, and of course, he's a former deputy in charge with the Customs and Border Protection Service in the United States, the border guards that look after the border, who have had their hands tied behind their back for the last 4 years under President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. And he said to me, where do you think? And he's suggesting there's up to 40 million illegals in the States right now that have arrived under Joe Biden. He says, forget the 10 million. It's way higher than that. And he said, where do you think these people are going to go when Donald Trump is elected and they find out he's serious about deportations? Well, they found out last week Donald Trump's serious. He appointed Tom Homan, the former acting director of Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE, to be his new border czar. And Tom Homan immediately started generating the news to talk about what he plans to do to get rid of illegals. So they're serious about getting rid of millions of illegals in the United States. So, as J.J. Carroll said to me, where do you think they're going to go? Where do you think these illegals are going to go? Back to Mexico? Back to Nicaragua or Guatemala? Some of them are coming from as far away as the Middle East, especially the terrorists. Some are coming from China. Do you think they're going to go all the way back? Or maybe just go a little farther north to Canada? We talked about this last week. The crisis at the border has begun. They're at the border, they're getting across. You're going to start hearing it every day in the mainstream media about the asylum seekers. I hate that word, that description. It's completely bogus. These are not people seeking asylum from anything. They are illegals. who are sneaking across the border or sometimes just walking across and getting into Canada. We already experienced this when Trudeau issued his last declaration of come on over to Canada, everybody and the refugees of the world. Well, he hasn't done that this time, but it doesn't matter because they're coming again because they still remember Justin Trudeau is that great guy who just has an open border policy. And they are streaming into Canada as I speak. I predicted this months ago. I said last week it was going to happen. I'm not happy it is. Let's watch this video. This is Nepean. If you don't know Ottawa, it used to be its own municipality. This is the west end of Ottawa. It's very close to where I'm living, actually. And I've got to get down to see this firsthand, to file some reports, because this is incredible what's going on in the city of Ottawa. Well,
immigration. Let's talk about it. In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests.
Okay, this is Trudeau's feeble attempt on his YouTube station last night to try to explain why he screwed up so badly with immigration.
So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years. Today, I'm going to let you in on what happened, where we made some mistakes, and why we're taking this big turn. That sets targets for both permanent and temporary residents.
This is a big change, a major cut to immigration, reducing permanent immigration levels by at least 20%.
These are the actual numbers. These are the actual numbers, people. It's a 2,400 person reduction. That is nothing. And this is legal immigration. Look at the escalation in illegals.
So we can prepare the homes and infrastructure needed to support them.
The sprung structures plan for asylum seekers continues to cause intense debate from residents in Ottawa. And today,
okay, this is incredible. This is from yesterday's news. This is Nepean. They're not calling these tent cities. I think I've run across this word one other time during the last mass exodus of or the last time we had huge numbers of illegals coming across the border. Sprung structure. It's another word for tent.
there was yet another protest. CTV's Kimberly Johnson was at that rally today for those who are opposed to the plan. And Kimberly, what are you hearing from some of these residents?
Austin, transparency was a word that came up often at a rally in Canada today. Residents say they have a lot of questions and feel shut out by the city, saying they were never consulted about the plan to build the sprung structures. On the other side of the debate, advocates in support of the refugees say the plan is the best way forward.
First of all, the community was not involved for the consultation before even the decision was published.
Holding her sign, Jihong Yang was caught off guard by the news of sprung structures. She uses this park and ride every day. She says it's too busy to hold a center for asylum seekers.
I think they need to really understand the impact they're building a sprung structure to this society. Even just from a commuter perspective, I think there needs to be better information provided and more accurate information.
I would guess this woman is probably a new immigrant. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I'm suspecting. But when I talk to people on the street at events that I go to, the ones that are most vociferously opposed to illegal immigration are new immigrants who got here legally, who had to jump through the hoops, who had to go through the immigration process legally. They resent the fact that people are coming here en masse illegally and don't have to play by the rules. So I'm guessing this woman is a new immigrant. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But she's on the right side of this issue, I can tell you that much. And this is outrageous that the Trudeau government would just create these structures overnight and not even acknowledge that there's an immigration crisis at the border, is an illegal immigration
Part of a
crisis at the
rally
border.
at 40 Hearst Way, the Eagleson Park and Ride in Canada, hoping their voices will be heard by the city as the city moves forward with a plan to build sprung structures to house asylum seekers. The first planned to go in near the Nepean Sportsplex, and the second here at 40 Hearst Way if needed. This is the second consecutive weekend of protests here, with many saying there was no consultation or transparency from the
Okay, so there you have it. These are the sprung structures they're going to be building. Now, so this is not only Nepean, Canada, which is the outer limits of Ottawa West. So that's where they're going to stick all these people. And they're going to stick them in front of a recreation center where kids are going to swim and skate. Does that make any sense to you? These are going to be largely unvetted illegal immigrants coming to Canada. We don't know if they have criminal records. We don't know if there are there sexual predators amongst them. Are they going to be going after the kids? Is the crime rate? Of course, the crime rate will be affected. All of these people milling about. This is a recipe for catastrophe. But what else does the Justin Trudeau government ever come up with except recipes for catastrophe? Am I being alarmist here? Of course not.
city.
Once they get here, if they don't get the better treatment, what's happening? They're wandering around this community. So then again, the next thing is it's maybe going to bad in our community.
Member of Parliament for Canada Carleton, Jenna Sudds, is also raising concerns about what she calls
Yes, that's Jenna Sudds. They had the super on the wrong person in that last shot there. This is Jenna Sudds, the Liberal MP for that
a
riding.
lack of consultation. She wants the city to consider more permanent buildings.
My ask is of the city to, do so responsibly in consultation with communities and move forward in a more permanent way with the best possible solution so we can do well by these folks and set them up for success.
The city says there are 600 asylum seekers currently using Ottawa's shelter spaces, and those in favor
for their own
Once
interests.
again.
So we're doing something major.
Sorry.
We're reducing
Builder perspective, I think they
to build sprung consecutive weekend of protests.
Once again, you're hearing the media and the Liberal MPs say asylum seekers. Like there's no harm done here, folks. This is not a problem. Bring them on. They're just asylum seekers. Stop repeating a nonsense word. These are illegal immigrants. We don't want to welcome illegal immigrants to Canada.
They're wandering around this community. So then again, the next thing is it's maybe going to bad in our community.
Member of Parliament for Canada Carleton, Jenna Sudds, is also raising concerns about what she calls a lack of consultation. She wants the city to consider more permanent buildings.
My ask is of the city to, do so responsibly in consultation with communities and move forward in a more permanent way with the best possible solution so we can do well by these folks and set them.
No, we don't want to do well by these folks. This is because you and your government has lost the grip on
up for
immigration.
success.
The city says there are 600 asylum seekers currently using Ottawa's shelter spaces, and those in favor of the city's proposed plans say these buildings are crucial.
Refugee claimants struggle to find.
between the amount of people coming and going, we'll effectively pause population growth for the next 2 years. Then from 2027 onwards, it'll balance out and slowly start increasing again at a sustainable pace. In fact, that gets us back to the population growth path we were on before the pandemic. This pause is going to give our economy and our communities the chance to catch up with things like our plan to build millions more homes.
Now look at this. This is a fact check on what Justin Trudeau is saying to you. He's lying again. There's no pause here at all. This is an imaginary pause. And Trudeau's housing plan would require more than one home built per minute. This is the reality of what Justin Trudeau is trying to tell you. He's lying to you again. So he has no plan. He has no plan. This is all about keeping you fooled.
Immigration. Let's talk about it. Population growth path we were on
Look at that
before
again.
the pandemic. This pause is going to give our economy and our communities the chance to catch up with things like
Except it's
our plan
not.
to build millions more homes.
There are no way.
Corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests.
Sorry, I keep doing that.
More homes.
I just want to read that for you. From the budget, 5 properties that are planned to be converted into 800 homes are now advancing to the development stage, with the government seeking expressions of interest or proposals from developers. These sites include 4 former military bases in Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, and Ottawa. That's the extent of Trudeau's plan. And I'm sorry, folks, that's not good enough. That's not going to do it. We have a crisis at the border right now. And once again, the mainstream media is buying in to Trudeau's lies that these are asylum seekers, that they're somehow refugees. They're not refugees from the United States. They're illegals in the United States, and they should be deported back to where they came from. Now, I want to move on to another source of news. This is, you think, okay, illegal immigration is catastrophic, but so is nuclear war. That can really ruin your day. And for the past year, this station, along with other independent journalists and some in the new media as well, have been arguing that it's insane to have a nuclear war right now, just like it was 50 years ago or any other time. It's not just unthinkable, it's unwinnable, and it's insane. But that's where the Biden administration is going. Let's have a look. Just a couple of days ago, this is my story yesterday from Human Events. Zelenskyy said war with Russia was going to come to a conclusion because Trump was going to make the war end faster. And Zelenskyy seemed to be developing some common sense. What happened yesterday, though? Now, once again, I say, I don't think Joe Biden is in his right mind. He hasn't been for quite a while. He's not in control of the White House. I don't believe if he was thinking clearly, even Joe Biden would say, no, I don't want to give long-range missiles to Ukraine so they can fire them at Russia and get NATO involved in the war and start World War III. That's exactly what he did yesterday. They're going to allow Ukraine to use U.S. long-range missiles to attack Russian targets. This is a fact. This is what has happened. Now, we'll watch some video. Now, this is something that really should make you stand up and say, hey, who's in control of this?
President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said Russia's war on his country will end sooner than it otherwise would have done with Donald Trump's return to the White House. Mr. Zelenskyy didn't say whether the president-elect had made any demands about talks with Russia. It comes as Ukraine also accused Germany of attempting to appease Russia after the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz spoke on the phone to Vladimir Putin for the first time in 2 years. Mr. Scholz said he urged President Putin to begin talks with Ukraine to achieve a just peace. Zelenskyy said the call undermined efforts to isolate Russia. Let's get more on President Zelenskyy's comments regarding a Trump administration on the war in Ukraine.
Ми великий народ, і ми повинні це довести.
We are a great nation, and we have to prove it. Therefore, I believe that the war will end. There is no exact date, but for sure, I emphasize once again, with the policy of this team that will now lead the White House, the war will end faster. This is their approach. This is their promise to their society, and it is also very important for them, not only for the sake of Ukraine.
Okay, so he's talking normally. You notice that this clown isn't wearing his combat fatigues anymore. It's like he realizes, hey, maybe I should look like a civilian leader and not a phony general. because it's be a good thing to stop the war, because if Ukraine loses any more men or women, it's going to have a catastrophic consequence on their population. It already has. The people who haven't died in this war, many millions have left. And this is creating a problem. The mainstream media doesn't even want to talk about the population problem in Ukraine. But this war needs to end. Of course it does. But just as Zelenskyy is seeing common sense and realizing Trump is going to end this war, the Biden administration wants World War III. They really do. I don't think Joe Biden does. He's not there anymore. He's not in control. It's Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, who's clearly running things. Blinken wants a third world war, and he wants a nuclear war. Why? Does he think he's going to survive? Well, some of them will, of course. They've got their bunkers to go to. You and I don't have a bunker to go to.
The Biden administration first sent Ukraine long-range ATACMS missiles back in March, but it's always resisted letting Ukraine fire them deep into Russia for fear that would cause escalation. Now the White House has given Ukraine the green light. It's partly a response to North Korea's decision to send thousands of troops to help Russia in Kursk.
In the updated version of the document, aggression against Russia by any non-nuclear state, but with the support of a nuclear state, is proposed to be considered as their joint attack on Russia. Russia will also consider the possibility of using nuclear weapons when receiving reliable information about a massive launch of means of aerospace attack and their crossing of our state border. This includes strategic and tactical aircraft, as well as cruise missiles and drones, hypersonic and other delivery vehicles.
All right, we had a chance to get out of this war. We still have a chance if sanity can somehow usurp insanity. But this is the most pressing problem facing the world today, is to stop this escalation before it becomes a third world war. And I have been talking about this for the last year, and there's some people out there who really think it's not worth talking about. It's not an issue. It's not a concern. Why should we care about this? Russia's not going to use nuclear weapons. I submit they probably will if US or NATO weapons start hitting Moscow. And that's the situation as it really is. But you're not going to hear that from Trudeau or Poilievre, who are both in lockstep with Zelenskyy in this war, because they don't seem to realize this has gone way beyond their rhetoric. And this is about the survival of the world, just like it was during the Cold War. We resisted communism for over 50 years very successfully. But we always realized it wasn't worth going to war over, because that would be the end of civilization. And what these idiots at the State Department in the US and in Canada and all through the NATO countries are doing is undoing all of the work and progress that was completed by Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev in the 1980s, when those two brokered a peace deal, brokered arms agreements that were lasting, except they aren't anymore. And they're being totally demolished and destroyed. Now, in the minutes we have here, I want to make an appeal for an old friend of mine, a writer. I think he's probably, well, he's not one of the best. He might be the best political writer in the world. He's always been an inspiration for me when I first met him when he worked at the National Post. And the last time I saw him was at one of the Canada Strong and Free conferences, where he was a guest speaker. I'm talking about Mark Steyn, writer extraordinaire. And he's gone through a horrible period in his life. 2 heart attacks. His health is not good. He was kicked off GB News. and he's facing and he's lost a huge lawsuit and owes like $60,000. He's $15,000 short. There's a give, send, go if you want to help Mark. But that information about how you can donate to help Mark out will be in the description. But here's a little
one
information.
of the world's biggest truth tellers is facing financial ruin for fighting the revolting government censors the off communists after he was thrown under the bus by GB News for reporting the truth about many things, including grooming gangs, but specifically COVID vaccines. So Steyn has been charged £50,000 in a court-ordered payment. He has been told he has to make this payment within 4 days after taking the UK's evil state censor to court. Now, this actually gets worse because the off-communists are demanding £144,959 and 28p in total. That is utterly sick, given that this is an organization trying to take away our free speech that shouldn't even exist. Now, Mark is trying to see the positive side of this situation. He's released a newsletter over the past week saying that it could be worse for him. He could be banged up and Belmarsh like poor old Tommy Robinson. However, this is a very serious and sad situation. Mark, you probably know if you've followed his career through Fox News and GB News and his independent venture, has suffered from 2 serious heart attacks. So his ability to work in the same way has been somewhat limited. So a fan website, Friends of Mark Steyn, is now attempting to raise these funds for him over the next 4 days. And this website reads, Steyn never held anti-vaccine views and even received multiple doses of the COVID-19 shots. Subsequently, Steyn miraculously survived 2 heart attacks in 2022. And although he recovered and returned to GB News, his reporting on government health data led to him being fired from GB News after pressure from Ofcom. Ofcom accused Steyn of breaching their rules as it gave a materially misleading interpretation of the figures which risked harm to viewers and won their battle in the UK court. Ofcom did not accuse Steyn of presenting invalid data. Again, the data he shared during a monologue was from the official UK Health Agency's website. But they said his interpretation of the data was harmful and might have led to vaccine hesitancy. Now, this organisation, the Friends of Mark Steyn, says organisations like Ofcom are the enemy of free speech and a free society, but organisations like these are precisely why so many people are turning to X, to podcasts, to alternative news outlets to get unfiltered information that they can decide and decipher for themselves. Censorship is always the enemy of the people.
So that I put that out there at the end here. The description does contain the information on how you can donate, how you can help out Mark. Like I say, this is one of the great political writers of the age, and he is being nailed to the wall by the state and by Big Pharma and by the forces aligned against free speech, which are all over the world, in Canada, the United States, and Great Britain. And we need to fight back on this. So thank you so much for helping out, Mark. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for being vigilant. We're going to have more on what's going on with these sprung cities in Ottawa. Never thought I'd hear that one before. But we'll go out on this note. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, folks. Don't listen to Justin Trudeau. We need this kind of attitude in Canada right now because, let me tell you, Justin Trudeau will fight tooth and nail to stay as leader of the Liberal Party and as Prime Minister of Canada, and he will use every trick in the Liberal handbook to do that. So we have to be vigilant, and we have to have perseverance to fight this battle to the end. As I've been saying since this station went on the air, we need to resolve to resist. And we need to fight for our free speech and our democratic rights to say what we believe, to speak, as John Diefenbaker said. And don't forget that t-shirt that's available out there in the store. I speak as a free Canadian, free to speak, free to believe in what I choose. And Justin Trudeau is not going to interfere with that. Thanks for being a part of the Krayden's Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.